Death camps. The Nazis were fighting two wars at the same time, one against the Allies and one to destroy the subhuman races. Of the two, the war against the races was usually given priority. In 1944 and 1945, trains that could have carried supplies to the army fighting for its life in the Soviet Union carried Jews to their deaths in Poland. It seems that hating was more important than winning. Death camps had a different purpose than concentration camps. Concentration camps focused on getting work done for the industry. The inmates produced until they died. Death camps were less practical. Their main purpose was to kill as quickly as possible, although some had a small work camp as well. Many prisoners moved directly from the train to the shower room for gassing, then to the crematorium where their bodies were burned. The death camps were the end result of the process that began with Insatzgruppen units, killing Soviet Jews. The Wannsee Conference in January 1942 had focused on better ways to kill. The master race was to be built on the ashes of the innocent. Their approach was very organized. The clothing of those killed was disinfected, valuables were sorted, and victims' hair was shaved and collected. After being gassed, the bodies were removed from the showers. Dentists removed gold and platinum fillings from the teeth. Bodies were disposed of, and the shower room was cleaned for the next group. Expenses were kept to the minimum. The staff of guards was very small, and the few inmates were Sonderkommandos, who had the dirty work of body disposal. Food for the inmates was the main cost. Jewish inmates received a turnip soup for lunch and supper, bread mixed with sawdust and margarine and old sausage, and what passed for marmalade was served for breakfast. Unpurified water caused epidemics that killed thousands. The Janowski camp outside Lwow, Poland, was a good example of the smaller death camps. Inmates suffered constant hunger and terrible overcrowding. After a hard day's work, they were forced to run through the camp. Those unable to survive the test were shot. Inmates too ill were forced to dig their own graves and lie in them, waiting to be shot. The larger extermination camps were all in Poland. They were all similar, but a brief view of each gives the picture. Chełmno was located near the Polish district of Kolo. An old castle was the center of the operation. When prisoners arrived by truck, they were told they were going to be resettled in Germany. But before they went, they were to shower. After removing their clothes, they were herded into vans where they were gassed by carbon monoxide. Treblinka was located northeast of Warsaw. It began operation in 1942, and in its first year, it took 800,000 lives. A railroad station similar to those in Germany was built there. New arrivals undressed and were led down the way to heaven, Himmelsstraße, to the showers. Prisoners were told that after showering they would be classified by trades, so most went quietly to their deaths without knowing what was happening. Others were less willing and had to be driven with whips. None survived the gassing with carbon monoxide. Later, Zyklon B gas, a pesticide, was used. The first commander at Treblinka was Dr. Immerfred Ebert, a physician and devoted Nazi. His mistake of leaving exposed bodies near the railroad station left no doubt for Jews as to what awaited them. Rumors about Treblinka reached the Warsaw Ghetto, so now the Jews knew what resettlement opportunities announced by the Germans really meant. With a capacity of about 15,000, this was one of the largest death camps. Yet, its staff was only about 24 German guards from conquered Baltic countries and Jewish Sonderkommandos. It was an efficient machine of death. Nearly everyone sent there was dead within a few hours. Sobibor. A prisoner orchestra played for those who came, but the only other music there was the screaming of those being gassed. There was no pretense of it being a work camp. No selection took place. The prisoner population numbered only 1,000 inmates, and they did the dirty work. After new arrivals were gassed, their bodies were burned in open trenches. Majdanek was outside Lublin and was used for Soviet prisoners of war, Polish prisoners, and Jews. The guards there enjoyed making inmates suffer. Mothers were forced to watch as their small children were killed. Inmates were forced to put on and take off hats in rhythm for hours at a time. During roll calls, prisoners were called out and hanged. Soviet POWs held there, froze, or starved to death. Of the 200,000 who died at Majdanek, about 125,000 were Jews. Belzec, also near Lublin, began as a concentration camp. but it became a death camp in 1942. Its first commander was Oblito Globacek, who also founded Sobibor and Majdanek. The killing business at Belznik began with the sergeant gassing prisoners with a diesel engine and carbon monoxide. However, the system was deemed too slow and unreliable. The pesticide, Zyklon B, was first tested on humans at Belznik, and thereafter it became the standard method used in extermination camps. An estimated 600,000 Jews and 2,000 Poles died there. Stutthof, near Danzig, was established in 1939. Beginning as a concentration camp for Norwegian inmates, its purpose shifted in 1941 when Jews were transferred there from overcrowded Auschwitz. Most died from freezing and starving rather than gassing. Inmates were delivered to Stutthof on slow barges. The trip of 14 miles took 3 days. One shipment of Jews was given no water and only 10 ounces of bread per person for the trip. In 1945, as the Soviet army came closer, the Jews were marched from the camp in a driving snowstorm. One group was forced to walk out into ice-cold water, and there they were shot if they tried to return to land.